Hi friends! I just want to take a really special moment to introduce you to Dion Beg.
Hello.
I'll let him describe what he does because it's really unique. I've not really worked with very many people like him. But he is a mortgage broker that has a rare take on business. So we're gonna take a moment to get to know him a little bit better. Dion, take it away.
Sure.
What is your position or your title? What do you do?
Sure. So I guess my official title is that I'm a mortgage agent, which basically means I'm an interface between my clients and the lender or the bank that is going to lend them money.
Yeah.
But ultimately, before we get there, the reason behind why my clients borrow money, obviously it's to acquire property or refinance property, but we often are doing that in order to help them solve their big financial questions.
There's a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
I know because we've done a seminar together.
That's
and
right.
It was very successful. There are 3 questions that people want to know the most.
Mm-hmm.
What are they?
Yeah, so what I found, I've been doing this and I've been in this industry now for 15 years, and almost every family has the same 3 big questions, and they are, how do I pay off my home in 10 years or in half the time? How do I put my kids through university? And how do I build extra wealth for retirement? And so as much as I am currently a financial planner, a mortgage broker, I used to be a financial planner. And they were the questions that we used to answer all the time. And what we found, and what I found, is that our wealthiest clients at the firm that I worked at as a financial planner, almost all of them had wealth in real estate and had solved those questions or solved the answers to those questions through real estate. So knowing that, I put everything together, and as much as I said, as I'm a mortgage professional now, we do a lot of planning in the real estate space that we know is ultimately going to help serve the clients in those other questions.
Okay, so I know a lot goes into it. It is not so simple as we're making it seem, but for the purpose of this video, can you give me a nutshell?
Sure.
How would you possibly pay off your home in 10 years?
Okay. Okay, so let's say right now you own a home that's worth, say, $800,000. And today the mortgage on that is at, say, $400,000. So you've got a 50% loan versus the value of your home. And like most people, you might be on track to pay off that home in maybe 25 years from now.
Yeah.
So I would say that's a fairly decent snapshot of sort of middle Toronto type people.
Yes.
So, I always like to ask people, like, do you have children? In most cases, people do have children. And that means that they'll be paying off their houses when their children are in their 20s or 30s, right? And what I like to see is if we can set them up so that they can pay off their houses when their children are maybe in their teens.
Yeah. And
it gives them amazing choices at that point. So how do we do this? Well, we would go and see if, number one, could we access equity in their home? In this case, they have quite a bit of equity. We'd only take a little portion of that. Let's just say we took $100,000 of that equity, and we could use that as the down payment on an investment property. So a lot of people out there believe that they can't get another mortgage until their first mortgage is paid off. So that's not the case, but some people feel that. So for those of you listening, you feel that, but that's not the case. So you can access your equity. Now let's say we did that. We took that 100, we used it as a down payment on a property. We can go and buy a property. If that's a 20% down payment, we can go buy a $500,000 property. So now we have 2 properties. We have the property we live in plus this rental property. Oh, the other question we get is, well, Dion, how do I get this extra mortgage on this extra property? And the good news there is that the lenders will recognize the rental income on the property you're buying. So if the rents there cover the cost of servicing that mortgage, then yes, you can qualify for that second mortgage, and in fact, a third or fourth property. But focusing on this one, now we have these 2 properties. This second property, statistically, we look at historical price growth. Now, it's not a guarantee, but we have to go off something, and we go off the historical average. Now, in the last 10 years in the GTA, property price growth has been somewhere in the range of 10% a year.
Yeah.
That means a property you bought for $500 is worth $550. We don't actually in 1 year.
Yeah.
Now, we don't actually use that number. We look at the 50-year average, and because we've had more ups and downs, the last couple of years has been mostly up. So we look at the 50-year average, and that 50-year average is around 5%. It's a little more, but we use 5% as our number.
Better to be modest.
Right.
Absolutely.
So let's say at 5%, the magic around this is at 5%, we know that prices increase about every 15 years. Sorry, they double every 15 years. So a $500,000 property that grows at 5% a year will be worth $1 million 15 years from now.
Right.
So if we held this second property, in 15 years, yes, it might be worth $1 million. The mortgage that we started, and it was all debt, it started with $500 debt, should be paid down to about $300,000.
Because someone's renting it.
Someone's renting it, you're collecting the rent, and you're paying your mortgage down with that rent. So in 15 years, your position on this second property would be an asset worth $1 million with $300 debt, or $700,000 in positive net worth.
Right.
Okay. And if, say during that same time, you've been just chipping away at your mortgage, which started at $400 and is now down to say $250. Well, it's quick math. Could you sell the second property, take the profit, and pay off this one? You could do that multiple times over. I used a 15-year time frame, but you could certainly do this in 10 and still achieve the same type of results. But the longer you leave that second home, the more you have the chance for the compound effect to come into play. And so a lot of our clients, it's interesting to say this, they'll get to a point where, yes, they could sell that home, that second home, to pay off their mortgage, but they'll actually keep that. Just the knowledge that they could sell that property and they could be mortgage-free tomorrow is enough for them to be comfortable. And in fact, so comfortable that they'll actually go off and buy 2 or 3 properties. And most of our clients have the goal to buy up to 3 rental properties.
You know what I really love about those 3 questions? I love the fact that some people will be like, okay, well, what about the kids? How does the kids come into this? When you think about it rationally, how would your kids afford to be in the market? Well, if you buy now, they really could take over one of those properties. It's a win-win sort of situation.
Yeah. Don't tell them, but I have 2 kids and each of them have a property or at least earmarked in our portfolio. Meaning that, they're 4 and 6 years old today. And when they're, reaching their 20s, we know that we're going to be giving them the keys to properties worth likely $1 million plus.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, based on historical growth and our belief in the property market.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know that my belief in the property market, in the GTA in particular, is because of the significant population growth that we get every single year. I mean, you and I are families, from families who are immigrants to this country as well. And the doors continue to be open. We still continue to let in people, skilled people who are wanting to live in the same areas that we're living in. So demand will increase. Supply is trying to catch up, but we're at a point now where we know that the demand is going to actually continue to exceed supply for quite a period of time.
Yeah.
So this is why I feel comfortable in investing in the GTA and endorsing it to our clients. And a lot of our clients, quite truthfully, in the last 10 years have become millionaires because they followed this kind of plan.
Absolutely, I believe that. Now, I know you were saying that you're in this industry for quite some time.
Yep.
What would you say the reason you got into this industry is?
Okay, so I really enjoyed the concept of education. So when I was young, my mom was a teacher. She still is a teacher. She's been teaching for 50 years. Right?
Wow.
And so she's in her 70s now and still teaches a couple of days a week by choice. So when I was growing up, I was surrounded by that. I graduated with a degree in international business and I actually went and taught at the university that I was a student at. And then I went and lived in Japan for a couple of years. So I in Australia, which is where my accent's from, which is where I grew up, Japanese was a common second language to learn at school because Australia is really part of Asia.
Yeah.
And I went to live in Japan. I taught English in Japan. I was working for Canon Cameras as a consultant in their international division. And so the first sort of quarter or first couple of years of my career was spent in education and training.
Yes.
Then when I went back to Australia after living in Japan, I bought my first property and I saw the power of property ownership in terms of how it had impacted my wealth. And I wondered if there was a way I could combine these two things. And so again, I'm a mortgage agent by title, but I really do feel that I spend most of my day in education.
For sure.
Yeah, in fact, just after this video, I'm going to be speaking to a room full of 50 or so clients and bringing them up to speed as to what they could be doing. So this is where I can combine my 2 passions.
Yeah.
And this is why I love what I do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to either myself or Dion. And I hope that you found this very informative. Thank you so much for supporting local. Bye.